show some love, smiley faces, hearts, all that kind of stuff for my good friends, Morris and Debra Hurd. You all come on in, unmute yourselves, come on in. How are you all doing?
Hi there, hi
Good
there.
evening. How are
Excellent,
you?
excellent.
I'm good. It's so good to see you all. Listen, Morris, you know how your wife does, so I had to wear something a little special.
I know.
I had to wear something a little special just because, you know how she does.
All the time. Normally a quarantine is a little t-shirt, but she put thought into what she was going to put on tonight.
Oh,
I mean, just a little bit. I just threw a little something together because I figured I would just be, I mean, I didn't want to do the sequence because I didn't want to be offensive to anyone. But you did an excellent job. You win tonight. I got something for you next time, but you win tonight.
I win tonight.
You win.
Okay, because I call you Miss Pearl.
Oh.
Call you Miss Pearl. And Morris, sometimes people try to sleep on you, but every now and then when you pull those tuxedos out, I think you must have about 50 of them.
I try.
I got to go back to my closet. Yeah. So see, I didn't tell you all what was going on. I figured I just sort of sneak this one on in.
Oh, you did that. No,
Yeah.
You snuck that on me, but you did that.
I did it this time. But let me ask you, my friends, while we're in the middle of this quarantine and this pandemic, how have you guys been doing? How's the family? How you all doing in terms of being teleworking or whatever you're doing in the quarantine? How things coming along?
Actually, Elder Color, I would say, the quarantine has been such a detriment to a lot of people financially, but I believe God has allowed us this time to redeem the time for us. It has been an excellent time for us. We had gone through some things prior to the quarantine, and it's almost like God has said, I'm going to redeem you all during this time. So for us, it has been an excellent period for us.
Wow.
Yeah, the drought season is certainly over.
Yeah.
I think that God came and showed himself strong. I'm talking about there is a flood financially for us. I mean, and so we were not expecting it, or when we expected it to happen, it didn't happen. But when I say God has shown himself strong, I don't want to put too much out there because, the moment we get off, people start calling and find out if they can borrow money and all that kind of foolishness. But just know that God did it. He did it.
I would also say, I believe that during this period, Elder Cutler, that God is selecting certain saints to bring out those skills, their creativity during this quarantine. Some is rest, but I believe he is trying to redeem time for us.
Wow. Lawrence and Debra, you know what I call this season? Certainly for me, I call it the season of the miracles behind the closed door.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, because like you said, it's a matter of redeeming the time. It's a matter of looking inside of you to see what is it that can be pulled out. What can I look inside myself and find that the Creator has already placed that has sat idle for so long, and now pull it out.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that things are working out for you guys in a miraculous way in the middle of this.
Right.
So listen, let's talk to couple followers. Take that as a testimony about the miracles that are still.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you know what, Martha, Debra, one of the things that I've been saying when we started this platform, I've said to people, God has not forsaken us. He has not forsaken us. I don't care what it looks like, and he's committed to bringing us through.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that in what looks like dark moments, the sun.
Absolutely. That's right.
Shines.
That's right. And we're still married. We're working through the marriage. Yeah. That's important.
And you're quarantined and you're still married.
And we're still married and sleeping in the same room. Right.
Happier married and sleeping in the same bed.
Right. That's important.
Speaking of which, let me say this. You all are record breakers because you are. So let's talk to Cutler members and Virtual Book Club followers. Put up some likes and thumbs and all that kind of stuff because the Herds are the first couple that on this platform. Come on, y'all. Give them smiling faces.
Thank you.
Yeah. They are the very first couple that I've had, and I'm delighted to have them. And while they each could have stood on their own, I just wanted to have you guys together.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
So thank you so much. What we're going to do, we started out, and you guys are my friends, so you already, you know this, but just as a reminder for some people who may be joining in for the very first time, we started as a virtual book club several months ago during March, and we were reading this book, When I'm Overwhelmed, and this got us, and we reviewed it, it got us through the weight and the heaviness of the quarantine because it was so new. And this was a book that was written in released in 2017. I actually had to cancel what looked like national tours back then. But as you all know, what looked like a setback.
Don't start no stuff. Don't start
was just
no
a
stuff.
setup by God. Yeah, I'm getting some stuff because we've talked about this and you all know it to be true. In 2017, it looked like a setback because God told me to write this book. In the very next month after it came out, because you all helped me, you all helped me with my debut here in this area. Right, the very next month, you all remember I broke my foot and I had to cancel major engagements. So I was thinking, why in the world would God tell me to write this book and then I lose?
Wow.
Serve a losing God. So then here, 2 years, almost 3 years later, here comes this platform. Here comes these wonderful people. Here comes these followers of Let's Talk, these virtual book club members. And I am humbled.
Wow.
I show up here every Tuesday and Thursday. But you all don't know that just before, I'm not going there right now, but just
yeah. Go ahead.
Broadcast, and almost after every broadcast, I move to tears because God has really redeemed the time. Wondering, why would you tell me to write this book? And how could you set me up like that? And how could you do this setback? But God is a promise.
Yes.
And He's faithful to His word. So
right. Yeah.
You know. So we went from this, and some of the book club members said, "We know this. We're just reviewing this book, but can we not end this?" And surely, as they asked, we decided not to end it. And I have good friends who said, "We're going to help you. We're going to make this grow, and we're going to make this go." And I asked the virtual book club members, "Will you all follow me if I develop another platform?" Deborah and Morris, it was an overwhelming yes.
Wow.
When I tell you, they have been so amazing. And you all know I live here by myself, but Tuesday and Thursday, when I log on to this platform and I see them, it brings tears to my eyes and it makes me feel like my house is so full and so warm. So I am so thankful. Book club members and Let's Talk the Color Follows. I didn't mean to go there for this moment.
No, that's okay. It's okay.
I am honored and I am humbled that you all would even consider the thought of logging in. So thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much.
Wow, absolutely.
And,
oh my
and
God.
now,
let me get my stuff together.
So yeah, I got tissue by me, but I'm really thankful. My mother always told me, people don't have to be nice to you.
That's right.
People don't have to like you. People don't have to like anything that you do. But you make sure that every person that God sends across your path, you treat them with the respect.
Yes.
Treat them with the respect that God intended. And baby is what she's always called me. She said, "Baby, I promise you, God will reward you." And neither God nor my mother has lied.
Lord have mercy, Jesus.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
So
wow.
So we're so
we can go home now. I mean, what are we here for?
You're here because you're my friends.
Lord have mercy. Now you got me all worked up.
Yeah, and you have a lot to say, and I need and want to hear your voice. So we are reviewing this book now. We don't always get it right the first time. Lessons for the next generation. And I know that for you two, there are 2 generations so far after you all. And tonight we're going to look at lessons 28, 29, 30. We're going to talk, and as we are talking, then we're going to ask the members to just join the conversation. By the way, if you all have any questions for either me or my friends, the Herds, make sure that you pin them right there or just post them in the comments section. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Morris and Debra. I'm going to read the lessons that you have already taken a look at, and then we'll get started with our discussion. Lesson 28 says, right is not always right, depending on what you use to distinguish right from wrong. Before you conclude that you are right and someone else is wrong, be clear about what you are using as your basis for establishing what is right or wrong. Everyone does not use the same gauge as you. For some people, right is determined by religious beliefs, legislation, societal norms, customs, traditions, family values, or individual opinions. So those of you who are reading along, you can go ahead and read the rest of that lesson. But really what this lesson is about is it's about understanding why you say what you say, because you're not always right unless you understand why you say what you say. And it's about seeking and trying to understand others so that you can accurately respond. If you don't understand them, you can't accurately respond. You can't argue or debate or even disagree with people when you don't understand. Because, and Morris and Debra, I'm going to pull you in just a second, because if we're talking from different platforms, we're wasting our time. How in the world are you going to disagree with me and you don't even know what platform I'm standing?
Wow.
Because if we're arguing about leaving the toilet lid up, I might not ever understand why I've got to put the toilet lid down. But you might not ever understand why you got to leave the toilet lid up. But if we're not arguing about that, but because maybe you're talking about respect and I'm still looking at the fact.
Yeah.
Realize that we're arguing not about an act, but about emotions. They're standing on the same platform. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because sometimes people, they're arguing from different platforms. So let me ask you this. Why do you think people are always so quick to try to tell people when they're wrong?
You want to answer that? So I felt like when we talked earlier, I felt like this whole entire session was about me. And so I can only talk from a place of experience. So I was that person that always felt like I had to be right. Okay. And so it takes a very mature person to understand that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. And so it doesn't always take an altercation of being right versus being wrong. I've learned specifically with my husband, because I like to fuss. And if I'm fussing and you quiet, that elevates me to a whole nother level. So I'm going at him because he won't talk, whatever. And then he's sitting there looking at me exactly like he's looking at me right now. And so I had to learn that sometimes silence speaks louder than words, and you don't have to be right about everything, Debra, just chill. So I'm not saying that I've gotten there yet, but I'm learning. I'm learning to be in a place, a posture that I don't always have to be right. And sometimes you have to, my father used to always say, there's no need to stand up for what's right unless you're going to stand up against what's wrong. And so I've learned that over the years. Absolutely.
And I think that it may not necessarily be about them being right, but it may be about kind of acquiescing to the teaching that they've received, saying that maybe that teaching was off or not necessarily, and it doesn't take into account someone else's experiences. So admitting that your experiences haven't met where their experiences are. And so you have to kind of, in order to say that someone else is right, then you also have to admit maybe teachings that you have received were wrong, or people who you respect, admire, or look up to also maybe were wrong in their thinkings.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good, but maybe, are you trying to say something to me, baby? You're trying to speak to me. Let's be clear, baby.
I'm speaking in there.
You all, listen, these are my friends, and they are a mess, and a good mess, and I wouldn't trade them for I would not trade them for a Pentagon, but that was good. And I appreciate that so much because, Morris, you're absolutely right. We have different experiences and we don't always acknowledge our experiences.
That's right.
Experiences. And Debra, thank you so much because what you just did, you modeled for us what introspection looks like. Yes. It means that a lot of times before I'm so hell bent on right, I need to look inside myself.
Yeah.
Does it really make any difference?
Right.
It doesn't matter that I've always got to be right. My quest to always be right should
right. Yes.
At the risk of disrespecting you.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. So and as a couple who gives marriage counseling and advice and coaching, I think that's great information. I'm single and it's good for me. But I got another question though.
Absolutely.
Have you ever found yourself in the middle of a conversation and arguing or disagreeing and trying to be right, and found yourself saying, what in the world am I talking about? I mean, has that ever happened?
I think we've both done it, and I think she's laughing because oftentimes we'll get into a disagreement, if you will, and then one of us will find ourselves saying, "Well, wait a minute, what was I saying?" And ultimately, we realize that both of us are really saying the same thing.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I mean, to my husband's point, I do that a lot because I like to fuss, and so between my kids, specifically my oldest, we would literally be going back and forth, myself and Almeda, Dr. McCannon. And she literally, I mean, I'm going off to the point where I forget what we were even arguing about. And she would literally stop me in my track and say, "Mom, what are you talking about?" And then literally, I can't even be mad anymore. She just broke up a whole mood there because I started laughing because for real, what am I talking about? I completely, and then pride sets in sometimes where you go on this whole, all the way around the mulberry bush, and then you realize, what are we even arguing about? Because you're just talking. So, and then with age, sometimes we think dementia is trying to set in because we start fussing, and then in the middle of it, we forget what we're fussing about, and then we realize, oh, we're over 50, so maybe we are, baby. If you think about this for me, and I think about that for you together, collectively, we could come up with something together. But yeah, we do that a lot. We do that a lot.
Right. So you find yourself arguing, then you go, well, I don't even know what I was talking about. I don't know what you said. And really, I'm not calling anybody idiots, but you know what's funny? I think the moment when you realize, I don't even know what you were talking about, then makes you an idiot for keeping
right. How about that?
I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm arguing, I'm an idiot. Just like you, I mean, for example, some people we don't see eye to eye. Oh, by the way, I'm glad you just called a name. I'm not gonna lose my point, I promise. By the way, for those of you who a few weeks ago saw my interview, my conversation with Dr. Almeda McCannon, you're meeting the parents of the doctor. So thank you. You just mentioned her name a few moments ago.
And let me just put this plug
there are three girls, and a grandson.
And it's important to me that our ratings are higher than hers. So whatever you did for her, do about 3 times as much for us.
Debra, listen, I didn't do it, so ask the audience to do it.
I'm talking to the audience right now. Y'all give us a whole lot of love. There's 2 of us, so give us 3 times as much.
Can you all please, for the sake of Debra, just send some thumbs up, hearts, and all that kind of stuff, because she wants her ratings to go up, their ratings to go up higher than their daughters. Now that's funny to me. Now, one of the things that, and we joked about it earlier today, as we often do, one of the things people sometimes they argue about, something as simple as eating pork, telling them, oh, you know, you shouldn't eat pork, don't eat pork. Well, how do you make yourself right? Are you talking to me from the Bible, from the Quran, from medicals? What are you talking about when you tell me I shouldn't be eating pork? Now, you're talking to me from, you know, because maybe my family is predisposed to hypertension. That's something, but just to come out your mouth, how do you all feel when people just tell you what you should do and they don't explain to you why you should do it, like eat pork?
So this is a very good point because, you know, I'm from down south, so I like a whole lot of macaroni and cheese and collard greens, and I do that in the middle of the week, several times a day. And so all of my kids have grown up on pork and all of that. So my middle daughter, Alexis, has now become a vegetarian, if you want to call it that. So she does a whole lot of, Ma, you shouldn't eat this. Ma, you shouldn't eat that. And I'm sitting there like, okay, you can do whatever you want. While you're eating that salad, ask them to bring me the whole prime rib on top of my salad so that I can eat it. Don't tell me what I can or cannot eat when you grew up on exactly what you're asking us not to do. So whether it's pork, beef, teeth, rings, whatever, I'm eating the meat until God calls me home. And don't feel bad about it. So I don't care if it's coming from the Bible. I don't care if it's coming from Dr. Seuss's book. It doesn't matter. I'm eating my meat.
Well, I'm agree to disagree just a tad.
Here we go.
Okay.
So I believe that it's coming from a good space. Their concern is, you know, of course, our health. But I think they also need to realize that, you know, both of us are over 50 years old, and this has been a way of life for us for that period of time. So they have to realize that we'll come into it.
Yes.
We're coming into it slowly, but we will come into it, as just as they have, but they allow us to come into it in our own time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. That because that's one of the things that says, I hear you, but I also need you to respect our experiences.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And Deborah, I heard you really saying the same thing, because now you're asking me to do something or to stop doing something that has been a part of my experience.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think when we're talking, and we'll get to it in the next one, but when we're talking, it really is a matter of listening,
Mhm.
appreciating different.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. I want to go into lesson 29 for just a moment. John is here. John, your brother John is here. John, it's good to see you. People are putting up. Listen, y'all, they're putting things like pork chop. Yes. And they're calling you all a power couple, and they're showing so much love.
Oh, thank you guys.
So
Thank
much love for
you.
you all. People saying my favorite couple and all that. So they love you all. Let's talk about lesson 29. This one is really key to all three of us. I know it is. It talks about to celebrate and honor your ancestors and teach your younger people to respect their elders. Spend as much time as you can with those who came before you. Don't take for granted the family members whom you still have in your life. One of my great uncles died at 103 years old, but one of my grandmothers died at 56. I've been blessed to know 4 generations before me, and so far 2 generations after me. Including me, that's 7 generations. I've known relatives who were born in the 1880s as well as those who were born in the 2010s. That's a range of 130 years. And having known those who were born in the 1880s, it becomes very difficult for me to despise the tradition, history, and heritage of my people. So one of the things that really is important for me is to pay respect to to the shoulders that I stand on. Like I said, I remember 4 generations before me, and so far 2 generations after me. And I consider myself as I owe my ancestors the respect and the responsibility of teaching at least a modicum of what they have
Yeah.
to the next generation. And so that's what I do. It's about understanding why you do what you do, why these traditions so important. And for me, tradition really is important. What did you all think about? Why do you think? What did you think is the importance of tradition?
For me, looking at heritage, and you mentioned it in setting this up, you were able to see 4 generations prior to you. For me, I saw 1 generation. I'm sorry, 2 generations. My parents, and then my grandmother on both sides. But I never got a chance to meet my grandfathers on either side of my family. Um, so for me, it's extremely important to honor them, because we don't know the sacrifices and or struggles it took for them to bless my parents, and then for my parents to bless me in order to give them the life. So I think they need to fully understand some of the things that were done indirectly for them. And let me give you an example.
Okay.
My father wasn't afforded the opportunity to finish high school, but my father made sure that I not only went to college, but he thought it was so important that my college was paid for in cash. So I didn't have to take any student loans, nothing at all. And I really remember one of my friends from Baltimore. When they went to college, they were put on a bus with all of their belongings in trash bags. My parents took me, they made sure I was good. And it wasn't until years later, I'm talking maybe 20, 25 years later, one of my friends is a jokester. And he was talking, he said, I knew that you and I were going to be friends for life when we went to register, and I was trying to get senatorial state scholarships, Pell Grants, student loans. and I saw you pay for your tuition with a personal check. He said, you never know what that meant to me. So it's important for me not only to let my kids know, but to let my grandson know that, Morris Hurd Sr. did that. He did it for me. We made sure Tanisha was able to go through, complete her doctorate. Alexis was able to get her bachelor's. And so for me, it's stories like that, the struggles, the sacrifices. My father worked 6 days a week. Never seen him I think once in my life I saw him take a Saturday off. So I think those type of stories are what's needed to make sure that our children and their children not only respect their ancestors, but I guess that they know that those things were done indirectly for them.
Yeah, and not only to respect them, but to keep the stories going.
Yeah.
We owe it to keep those stories going, because we always have to remind them, and this is just lessons for the next generation. When they understand the roots, then they'll understand the limbs.
That's right.
They would never understand the strength of the limbs
Yes.
until they understand the strength of the roots that they come from.
That's right.
And Debra, I get it, because I know, even coming your family, the Southerners that they are, it is the same thing. I've often observed you with your siblings, and I've seen you. If something should happen to one the root that you come from, drop things in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And hit the next plane.
That's right. And to that point, and I'm certain that every single one of my siblings are online tonight. And we were brought up just that way. I mean, even growing up and even now, we have our differences. But my mother used to say, y'all can do whatever y'all want, but you better not fight each other. And so even when we go through right now as adults, at any given time, if I need anybody, everybody will stop, drop, and roll, because that's the foundation that was created for all of us.
And we never want to forget that. And so we owe it to them to honor them. Yes. And for me, it's a matter of remembering. One of my bishops back home in North Carolina in the Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, this was back in the mid to late 70s, Bishop James Melvin out of Goldsboro. We used to have at our mid-year convocations, we would always pause to remember the fallen ancestors. And I was a boy, and it didn't make sense to me at the memorial in the midst of every one of those mid-year conventions and the annual conventions, and they would have something that looked like a wreath or spread that went on the top of the casket. And we would march out of the institution, and we would go there and we would memorialize them. And I always just hated that portion of the service. But he said something, and I continue to joke with my mother because I've never forgotten it. He said, one day you're going to want somebody to remember.
Wow. Wow.
And I understood what tradition was all about. How do you all want to be remembered?
So, for me, my entire outlook on remembrance is different the older I get. And so before, it didn't matter what people thought. I never even want to think about how I wanted to be remembered. But right now, I'm writing my own story. I'm trying to live a life that aligns with what I want to be remembered by at my service. So I don't want everybody likes all this extra that I give. But I used to say to my husband, there's a whole nother person on the inside that I want, hey, y'all, look outside of this extra that I give. I want them to remember me for being that giving person, not necessarily for the way I dress, but for the heart that I have. And so a lot of times you can't see my heart because I have so many pearls on. I have, this is too big, etc. So right now I'm just trying to align myself that in my latter days, that God will raise me up to remember or to live a life that's pleasing, and that people would remember me just from being who I am and just very genuine. I'm very black and white. I don't, what you see is what you get. I'm very firm, but that's how I think I want to be remembered. Wow. And in my casket, I want a full gown, a big hat. I'm not sure how they'll be able to do that because I want the whole full thing. But yeah, we can talk about that later.
Wait a minute, Deborah. So what you need to do is tell your buddy Robert that's what you want. And
Right.
remember me for my heart.
Right. But I don't get it twisted.
But don't get it twisted.
Don't get it twisted. I still want to look right. And Robert knows what to do. He and Tanisha can get that together because they won't know what to do. They'll be so messed up. But don't get it twisted. Remember my heart, but make sure I look good.
All right. Y'all, please speak of the heart. Send us some hearts right now. Your siblings will say, yep, you were right. When it comes to family, they said, stop, dropping.
Right.
What about you, my brother? How do you want to be remembered?
I think I want to be remembered maybe the same way that I remember my father. I speak so much about my father because in this time of fathers that aren't there. I can't say enough about the father that I had. So I want to be remembered in that same vein, and that is the sacrifice that I gave for others, especially my kids. I want to make sure that they know and realize that everything that we did was to make life better for them, to give them things that maybe we didn't have the opportunity. And I think that's the biggest thing, to make sure that we sacrifice, or they know that we sacrifice for their betterment.
I think that's wonderful. I want to share one of my traditions, and it's just not mine, but it really comes from Native Americans. That there's this saying that they always live, they never die until we speak on their name.